All right. Roller on the Barrel Show. Vintage baseball talk. Talking to vintage baseball players. What we do here. I am your host, the Barrel Roller, Matthew Bernard. I'm joined by the other host.
That's right. Swamp Fox, Rudy, Swamp Fox Frias is here as well. Let me just say real quick, the intro is just flowing. It just flows out of you.
That's your background music.
It's appropriate. I like
Rudy
it.
Frias. You know. Yeah. Hey, Rudy.
Hey.
We're home. Everybody's home.
Yes, I feel like you've been on the road far longer than me, but yes, everyone's home, settling in.
Yes, I was on the road. Let's go through that a little bit for everybody. I went to the Doc Adams Festival in Old Bethpage, New York. Did I talk about this yet? I don't know. I've released so many things lately. I can't keep track of everything that's out there. Anyway, I went to Old Bethpage. I saw 2 days of the Doc Adams Festival. Old Bethpage, of course, obviously amazing. I saw Gary Monte, the umpire from the Conan O'Brien sketch. I was geeked about that. He was not. I saw I saw a lot of great vintage baseball. I saw amazing teams, the Providence Grays, the Brooklyn Atlantic. Now I feel like everywhere I go, Brooklyn is, but really we know everywhere I go, Canton, because they were there, and I got to call an 1884 game between Canton and Providence, and go back in the archives and listen to that. That was amazing. I loved the flow of the game. It was nonstop, and it was a lot of fun. Did you listen to that?
Oh, of course I listened to it. It was great. I loved every minute of it.
Yeah. Have you played in an 84?
Yeah, I've played in two 84 games. I played my first one was in 98 and then my last one was in the summer of 2008. I made sure to spread it out. Yeah. It was my last one was against the Grays. I was a Gotham. It was intense. Like in a good way. Like cuz you get used to, vintage baseball and everything and then it's like a shot of adrenaline in your arm. I love it.
Yeah. So in this, before I finish it up, in this episode, we have the captain of the Bovina Dairymen. It's Nicholas Frandsen. He's going to be coming in shortly in the next 4 or 5 minutes, I would say, if not before. But yeah, so I saw that. And then I left and I stayed a day in Times Square at a hotel where my view out the window was the wall of the adjacent hotel, right next to it. Like I could have jumped into the hotel room across the alley from me. But so Times Square, I toured New York City. I'd only been in New York City once as like a 12-year-old, and so it was basically all new to me. And went on the Staten Island Ferry, did a bunch of cool stuff on the tour. Then we went to Philadelphia for a couple of days. Listen, if you don't ever listen to any advice I give you people, go to Philadelphia. Oh my God. You have to go to Philadelphia and tour everything. A life-changing experience Philadelphia was. It's a beautiful place. Not old. It's a great combination of old and new, and it's not scattered. It's like, here's old. You can go over there to new, and it's, oh, and I went to a Phillies game, and it's a great stadium. I like that stadium. So, and then we went to Baltimore, and I got rained out in Baltimore from basically doing anything, and I did not like Baltimore from what I saw of it. So,
That's
yeah.
but
And then we went to.
you didn't like Camden Yards? I hear it's amazing there.
I didn't get to go in. I bought my ticket. It wasn't raining yet, and I'm like, I just got to get in. I don't even care about staying for the game because I
Yeah.
knew it was going to rain. I'm like, I just got to get in, do a walk around, see everything, grab some food. I'm good. I don't even need to be here. And just as they're getting ready to open the gate, downpour. And that reminds me, I still got to put my ticket up on StubHub. And they keep winning, so maybe I'll make some money off of this. And
Nice.
And then 2 days in Washington D.C. where we toured everything. Yeah, just I over the course of that vacation, I stood in the room where they signed the Declaration of Independence, and then I stood in front of the Declaration of Independence. I I stood next to the theater box where Abraham Lincoln was shot. I was in a room with his hat, and I've already seen the chair at Greenfield Village that he was shot in. So,
Wow.
I mean, it was just very surreal, very kooky. I loved every second of it. And then I finished it up by going flying back in and driving like a madman to the World's Tournament. I wasn't going to set up and do anything on Saturday because I knew I was going to be exhausted, and I couldn't help myself.
And
It was like
yeah,
opening up presents on Christmas Eve. Do you do that?
we do one. I was so excited to see you up and running. It was a treat.
Oh, Rudy froze. Yeah, you
Uh-oh.
back? There you are.
I'm ba- Uh-oh.
I keep losing you. Are you losing me on your end?
No, I hear you. I hear everything. You
Yeah.
sound great. It's interesting. And also,
Okay. You're.
Nicholas is here.
Yeah, go ahead. Nicholas is here.
Yep.
Mm. Yeah. So, okay. Nicholas is here, and we're going to be bringing him into the room to do our interview. Yeah. So obviously we did 2 days of the World Tournament. I did some live stuff on Saturday to prepare for doing the live feed on the championship game on Sunday between Walker and Flat Rock. And we did that, and it came off. I didn't have any technical difficulties, which I'm known for, and like I'm having right now with Rudy, although right now he's fine. But we've been having, and then I came home, and here I am, and yeah. What have you done, Rudy?
Uh, Nothing. Just went to the World Tournament and enjoyed that environment. And then took a little bit of extra time afterwards to spend a few days at Lake Michigan at a little lakeside home. It was beautiful. So yeah, coasting into the rest of the season.
How was the water at the lake?
Freezing cold.
Yeah, the kids. How long did they last
So
going into that water?
once you became acclimated to it, it was nothing. My son uh went like ankle deep and like ran around in it, and then once he had that initial fall in, he was like splashing and jumping in the water. He was great. So yeah, once you freeze all your nerve endings, the water's fantastic.
So, do we got Nicholas in here yet?
Yeah, here he is.
Oh, Nicholas, are you here?
I hear him.
Hey, fellas,
There
what's
you
up?
are. Well, there you are, sort of.
Here I am. So I'm finishing an email here. Um, I'm asking this older lawyer around. Oh, sorry. Let me start my video. I'm asking this older lawyer how I might sue the town and make my town supervisor look bad.
There you go.
So just so you know, you are being recorded right now
Oh, gotta
on two different
stir the
levels.
soup. Stir
I
the
just,
soup. Hey, man,
go ahead.
you can't make any meaningful change if you don't tell anybody you want change.
There you
Is
go.
that what you've heard?
I just made that up, but I could attribute it to Lincoln if you want.
I was gonna say that sounds like Gandhi.
Yeah, I like Gandhi. Yeah,
There you
that could
go.
be Gandhi. I like it.
If you come up with a quote that involves thinking, you can just attribute it to anybody. Everyone will believe you. It don't matter. Mr. Frandsen, captain of the Bovina Dairymen, vintage baseball model. I saw a picture of you standing next to a mountain. You know this picture, like it's the mountains over your shoulder, and you're just kind of looking at the mountain. You know this picture, right?
Yeah, that's at our ball field, I think. I'm like looking wistfully into the distance or some such. Oh no,
Yeah.
that's out west. That is in Glacier National Park. Yeah, that I know the one
Okay.
you're talking about.
Very
Yeah.
erotic. I like girls, by the way. So it hurts me to say that. Rudy, you got to see this picture of the mountain range over his shoulder.
I'm gonna have to do a Facebook search here in a little bit.
What we have to do, Rudy, is we have to start interviewing ugly people because I am so offended by the rugged good looks of everybody that comes in here lately.
Well, I mean, considering this is an audio medium, I think you're doing great. Like
It's true. Nicholas, tell everybody how you came across vintage baseball. How did you get involved?
So I am from a very small town called Bovina, New York. Not Bovina, it's Bovina, New York. And we are a historical dairy farming community in the Catskill Mountains. And, it's small. And, I was a baseball player in high school. And after that, in 2008, some older guys around town, like my dad's generation, I was 22. My dad's generation, a couple of those guys started a vintage baseball team. Their main rival back then was the Roxbury Nine. Do you remember them? Ever heard of them?
never
Okay.
heard of them.
They're so famous that some would call them infamous. And they were like really the powerhouse around here and the model that we all copied. So Bovina Dairymen were started in 2008 by this total character named Harlow. And I was like one of the young boys on the team back then. Me and a couple other guys that I played ball with when I was young, including my brother and these two other brothers that we played with. Like all our dads played on the team, and so it was like half and half. Old guys and their sons basically, and their sons' friends eventually. And so I was the catcher. Unfortunately, I still am sometimes, but. And so, we played for a while. The team puttered along for several years. And then when I was in my second year of law school, I got a phone call on a Thursday night from Harlow. And Harlow says, "All right, Nick, we've got a game on Saturday. We're playing the Fleischman's Mountain Athletic Club. That's Colin Miller's team. A wonderful human being." And he says, "We got a game on Saturday. And I can't make it. So you're going to be my lieutenant. And you're going to run the show." I said, "Okay, fine. How many guys do we have?" He says, "Well, assuming you're in, we've got one."
Oh,
Thursday night. So he and I like run the phones the next day and a half. We put together 9 guys. We play at this local dairy fest. And we beat the MAC in a walk-off 24-23. And I was hooked. And here I am 5 years later, captain of the Dairymen.
nice.
Okay, so the Bovina, New York area is known for its dairy products, right? Is not a cow referred to as a bovine? Is that wrong?
That is 100% correct. And
so what
Bovina,
came first?
The bovine or the bovina? Boy, I hope it was Bovina that came first, but I imagine it was bovine. The Latin, I suppose. I have to give deference to the Latin. Oh well.
The lawyer in you.
Yeah, that's a fact.
So you've been playing for a handful of years. I was told by Mr. Feeney of the Canton Corn Shuckers that you guys were the best team at Gettysburg and probably could have, not should have, but could have won that tournament. I don't know how to say this because I don't know you or your club. So how competitive have you been in the last handful of years?
So since I took over the team, I mean, I think our winning percentage is in the 750 or so range or something like that. So we've put together and I think I'm a little bit lucky, to be honest. There isn't really adult baseball around here, and so I can really dip into basically an all-star team of the last 20 years of like graduates from like 2 or 3 local high schools, and but also I a lot of people. The most important part about running a baseball team is making it a place where people want to hang out. They want to spend time. I mean, it's a big ask. I'm asking guys to dedicate 9, 10, 11 weekends a year to this project. And so I've been very conscious about doing the things that allow me to make it into a place where people want to be, want to bring their families, want to be a part of for a long time. And that's the kind of stuff like fundraising, having a website, getting press, getting people to come to the games, doing these like team dinners and inviting families. Did I say fundraising?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
all those things. And so we've built a real core of guys who are in our 30s. Our core is probably like 30 to 37, that like they want to be there. I've got 7 or 8 guys who are going to make 9 or 10 weekends this year, and that's a lot. So I think it's a little bit lucky, a little bit of hard work and blood, sweat, and tears and all that.
Yeah, you're definitely one of the first guests. Oh, P.S. We've never really met. I'm Rudy. Nice to meet
Rudy,
you.
great. I love your beard, dude.
Thanks, dude. Thanks. Uh, um, it's really interesting that you bring that up, because like you're one of the very few people that talk about, not to nutshell what you just said, but like the social club element of vintage baseball, making it an enjoyable experience and something people want to commit time to. When did you realize that? When did you realize that I need to start, like, in order to get engagement and investment and retention, I need to focus on this?
When we started playing away games, when we were just playing 3, 4, 5 weekends a year, and it was all within an hour driving distance, like it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
But when we got more serious, I realized how much time I was putting in, and then also how much I was asking these other guys to put in. And I don't know what other teams run their clubs on, but I get the impression that, how do I say this? I get the impression that like I place a very high priority on fundraising in order to spend it on these things. I don't know what other people do. That's what I'll say. And but also, like, it's awesome to go to an away game, and I allot a big portion of our budget just for away games. Like, my philosophy is like, if you're gonna drive and go there, blah blah blah, spend all this time, like, I want to treat you as much like gold as I can.
Nice.
So if we have if I can bring the whole team to dinner and like swipe my card and then get it paid for out of the team account, like, I do it.
Yeah.
And the guys and their families, they notice.
That's awesome.
It's thank you very much.
That's above and beyond. That doesn't happen on most clubs.
It,
So what you're saying right now is shocking people. Like,
It-
what the hell did he just say?
I know.
Did he
I want
say he whips out a card and pays for everybody's
yeah,
dinner?
I should. All the captains are gonna have my rear for
Yeah.
that.
I'm right here. I'm like, we're gonna have to cut that. I hope none of my clubs listening, because
I mean, look, it takes time. You're right, but like, you're running a small organization, and I I think I stumbled upon that realization partially also because, like, once our games started to become more like events, I realized there was like an interplay between, like, there's 2 groups of people that you're playing to. There's the players who have to want to be there, but there's also the fans. Most of our fans like don't really care about baseball, but they love coming out to the ball field on a Saturday. There's this old timey thing going on. they can bring their dog, and we advertise and blah, blah, blah. And like, it's this kind of symbiotic relationship that has to be there. And
Totally.
don't get me started on the historical accuracy thing, because I have some thoughts on that too.
Oh, that's no. Stop the show. That's exactly what we're going to talk about now.
Yeah, you're a host. You really. So when I was in the military, I worked in the intelligence field, and they call that a lead. So go grab that lead, baby.
It's hot button topic.
Yeah.
Historic baseball accuracy. I want to know what you have to say about it. I don't even know, and I want to hear it.
I'm a firm member of the New Guard. It's cool that this thing is, part historic reenactment. Woman that I was dating once called it a Renaissance fair for jocks. And
that's not wrong.
That is 100% not wrong. It's true. It is like there is this theatrical element to it, and that I really enjoy. Anyone that you talk to who knows me will tell you I have a big personality, and I like to put the uniform on and go play this big personality, or let it out, I guess. All week I'm a lawyer. I have to be nice to people, and it's no problem. Send it tomorrow, or well, I know it's okay that you forgot. Like, no, when I'm like between the lines in uniform, I get to like run around and be loud and talk to the crowd, and it's great. And doing that within the bounds of the historical accuracy is very difficult, because and this is the example I use all the time, but I'll use it with you guys too. The smiling in photos. Nobody likes to smile. Like they didn't smile in photos back then. It's historically true. It's proof. Abe Lincoln didn't smile once in his life. Sure. That brings our Lincoln reference counter up to 2, by the way. But
write that down.
Yeah. If we get to 3, then I owe you $1. But if you're advertising, for example, and you send out a bunch of pictures with a bunch of dour looking dudes, people are like, is that fun? Should I go? Like, should I donate? Should I buy their t-shirt? Like, are these guys having fun, or like, what's going on? And it's, and that's just one example, and like I interact with the crowd kind of a lot, especially at home games. I interact with the crowd a lot. I've experimented with some other things, like, reading them these like semi-prepared historical facts of what actually was happening in 1864. We'll talk about the election of 1864. That doesn't count as a reference. And so, like a lot of these things are maybe not historically accurate, and maybe I'm like a little bit of the like brash new guard. But also I think that, as with most things, there's a balance to be struck. So I'm very strict about plastic on the bench for the most part, like watches and sunglasses and all that. Like, we are putting on a show, and the uniform is requirement. But I'm okay softening the edges a little bit to make it a little bit more palatable for a modern audience, and also like the guys who are dedicating their time to it. So if it's a rule that is historically accurate, that I don't think advances the project, i.e. makes guys want to be there, or puts, bums in seats, as you Midwesterners say, that's a hockey thing, I think. Then I don't, I'm okay tossing it.
Nice.
All right. So what you're saying is, you're not hardcore vintage, but you know what? I don't think there's a lot of clubs out there that are like real. This has to be this way. There are some.
I guess maybe they're just, more vocal.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Uh,
But I always tell people that there's a show that you're putting on, and it has to be. All right, I'm just gonna come out and say this stuff. Okay, I hate trying to be the guy afraid to say something to try to soften blah 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 blah. One of the biggest things is the Ohio Village Muffins went out to the East Coast to learn how to play vintage baseball. They brought it back and they changed a bunch of stuff. And the East Coast wasn't happy about them bringing vintage baseball back and changing it to what the product they put out. But their product they put out was trying to make it more watchable for people and more palatable. And they probably, and I don't know this, but they probably weren't quite as skilled as the gentleman on the East Coast. I do not know that. That's just a feeling I have. So nobody's wrong. That's a thing in this argument that has come up a couple of times. Nobody's wrong.
Yeah.
You do have to, if you want people, look, if you're a historical, like the Ohio Village Muffins, they're a historical society. They want people to come to the games. They put on a show. They want, and if you got like fat guys like me stealing 5 bases a game, it's hard to sell that to people to come and watch. But it's also not historically accurate. Like what they do is not accurate. So I can see why the East Coasters would be like, hey, what are you talking? The ball's never dead. Why are you guys killing the ball in the Midwest? It's never dead. And we have these arguments all the time, and nobody's wrong. My big thing is every year vintage baseball, they were changing the rules. I hate how vintage baseball, the way it was meant to be played, they didn't feel that way because they changed the rules every year.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think baseball is a foolishly traditional sport, and I love it for that. I'm a big tradition fan in general, but I'm also, I'm all for all the presidents that I like best were problem solvers, and they saw something that wasn't working anymore from back in the day, and they said, hey, we should change that. And so I think that I'm okay bringing the same attitude to vintage baseball. And, it was really, so this was our first trip to Gettysburg this year. And, we did well. We played 3 one-run games. It was maybe the most intense weekend of baseball of my entire life. No, it definitely was. And it was eye-opening from a captain's perspective to see how the game is different, in the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic, and I didn't see any other groups aside from those two. I know there was some like Southern stuff going on, but I saw, we played against Elkton, Brandywine, Kennett Square, and then Flat Rock. And it blew my mind when I heard that the norm in other areas of the country is the gentleman's call. Like the umpire isn't supposed to be like a driving force in the game. And that's crazy to me, like, I mean, I guess, there's a I don't know. We just didn't grow up that way, I guess. Like the umpire calls and the players play.
Mm-hmm.
And, the players take everything they can get and the umpire enforces the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And it's different. Not better, not worse. It's cool that like 18 grown men can get together and just work it out themselves. There is something very beautiful about that to me, but
they don't do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't listen to that.
Are they talking a big game? And yeah, okay.
We in the Midwest, we do a thing called single matches that don't matter so much, and people are more than willing to call themselves out at these matches because there's no stakes. But if you put stakes in front of people, all of a sudden nobody's leaving a base.
Fair enough.
No umpires at the World Tournament last weekend. We saw nobody calling themselves out, even if they were out by a step or more. No, waiting for the umpire. Yeah. So that's kind of overblown.
I wonder if the Gettysburg tournament format like bled out because a lot of those Midwest teams were there, or certainly some of the what I understand to be the best clubs out in that circuit. I'm talking about Flat Rock and Walker Tavern. I no offense to
Well,
any other
you did
clubs.
get beat by one of them.
I mean, my God, they were good. Like I couldn't believe it. I I come up and I take a look at Flat Rock's lineup and I'm like, what is going on here? These guys look like a bunch of beer drinking lumberjacks just like crawled out of
What?
like a factory floor, and they're beating us. They're beating us bad. I couldn't believe it.
What I love this narrative. So like I'm in Ohio and I was at Gettysburg. I actually watched we were so confused, my club in general, by your club because we were like, who the hell are they and why are they so good? Because we had been going to Gettysburg for I would say 6 or 7 years prior, and so we knew what we were getting into, but it's hilarious that like even like a TC, the Dirty Pirate on Brooklyn, it's like you guys are a bunch of like farm hands. You're just a bunch of burly guys that hit the ball. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I live in a city. What like it's very hilarious to like hear that, but it's really I I'm I'm fascinated by the fact that I just met you and you from what you described, you're like the perfect marriage of what the muffins spread in the Midwest, which is when I got involved in the early 90s, it was a more theatrical, like presentation to engage the crowd. The umpire commanded most of the game, like calling everything out loud with flourish and people engage, players engaging with the fans. And then yet you also have, and not that the muffins don't have it, but that respect to like, yeah, we're not going to have this on the bench. You're in uniform. You're putting together a presentation. We're going to respect the history of this as well. It's really interesting to hear this from someone that I literally just met. And so let's talk about like your Gettysburg experience in general. This was your first year. Now in the past, well, when we started going to Gettysburg in, I think it was like 2012, 13 or something like that, it was just straight up festival. So there was no tournament. So you would just go and play and experience, especially for a Midwest club, experience what baseball is like on the East Coast and the Mid-Atlantic. And you've already started hinting at that. Were these clubs that you played, were they completely new to you or had you had experience playing with them in the past?
It was totally new to us. And like, I knew Rising Sun. I'd played Elkton once before. And like I knew that there was like a big Midwest circuit, but I had no idea about any of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was blown away at the level of competition there. I mean, we're a bunch of like our average age is, 32 or something like that. And that's just because like that's who I know.
Yeah.
And that's like the core that like we've put together. It's like between me and my younger brother, who's our shortstop, by the way. He's the one who hit that 2-run shot against Flat Rock to tie it in the ninth.
We were watching that from I think it was field 1, where it was like wherever Gettysburg and them were playing. We were down there watching it. That was wild.
So that's my younger brother, and he's like actually good. The rest of us, played baseball in high school. But so it helps to have him on your team, you know what I mean? But I think, I mean, we beat up on teams, somewhat regularly. And, but we also like, we're built as an overhand baseball team. And I, don't tell some people, including my girlfriend, who thinks underhand ball is girly or something. But like I prefer, I'm like a rules nerd, government, baseball, other like board games. Like I love how the stuff fits together and how it tweaks the advantages and disadvantages. And so like for an underhand game, I really appreciate it because you can't have this like one hit kill pitcher who strikes out 18 guys in a game and the rest of your team is trash but you still win. That's not a thing. You got to have like a pretty decent right fielder if you want to go to Gettysburg and win. The competition's stiff. And that I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, it's always nice to roll in and win the championship, but I'd prefer to lose a one-run game than win in a blowout any day.
Yeah.
So that was really cool and a little daunting for me as the captain because I'm like, well, shoot, now we're gonna have to like travel more to see some of these teams that like might beat us. I mean, and don't get me wrong, like we played in Rocky Point this weekend. We lost. We were 3-1. But like there's some good teams out there and they know how to play the game and we don't. We're a bunch of like, young athletes and that makes up for like some mistakes that we make.
Yeah.
But,
So isn't it the best part of a game? As you say, you don't know everything about the game and something comes up and you're like, what?
yeah. And
That's
like
how that works. And you're like,
I
wow, now that makes sense.
Who is slick is Elkton. Boy, they're smart. You know, they're smart, and I don't want to let them know how onto them that we are. We noticed a few things they did, like, oh wow, that was sharp. And it's just all these little things that they're good at, and you realize afterwards it's hard to adjust in the heat of the moment, but it's more fun than just recruiting a 24-year-old pitcher who throws smoke and then you win. So I personally, like, we were built as an overhand club, but I like moving in the direction of the underhand game a lot. It's a lot of fun.
Is it more 64 or 67, would you say?
We play more 64 in the Northeast just because like it's easy to get a game in an hour 45 and it's going to be done and then you can move on to the net and you can schedule stuff. I was talking to who's the Walker president?
Jim Twilliger?
Yeah, that sounds right. I saw him in Gettysburg after Sunday evening. They stayed and so did my partner and I. And, he was saying, like, you guys all play the 67 fly game. And, you regularly have scores of, it's like 32-30 every game or something like that.
Yeah, we played Flat Rock in May of this year, and we lost 36-29.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fun. Like, there's a lot of offense. That's cool. But, I mean, is it disheartening? Like, you go up there and you put up 6 runs in an inning, and then, it's like, it's not really that big of a deal.
Nah. Yeah, dude, they put 11 on us in the fourth, and we put 12 on them in the bottom of the fourth. We're like, it's disheartening. It makes for an entertaining game, but yeah, it definitely it can be a long one too.
I can see that.
Yeah, over here in the Midwest, it's basically two thoughts. If you're trying to reenact baseball and you enjoy going out and playing baseball and having fun with your friends and all that stuff, you're a 64 team. And if you're on the competition side and want to play stiff competition, you're a 67 team. And that's the way it is.
Interesting.
Yeah, we're kind of screwed because in Ohio, all the teams, there's only one other 67 team. So we're all 64 in Ohio, and we don't get to play our fly game until we head north. And then that's what happens. I want to ask you about playing baseball with your brother. Consider your journey is kind of very similar to mine. My dad was the adult that got started in vintage baseball, and then all of my brothers ended up playing, and then we just eventually became the Columbus Capitals. So it was like a family thing. So what's that dynamic like? Because I just love hearing this stories.
So we just played in Rocky Point, the festival there, the Grays hosted. Great festival. Love it. We demolished the Grays. I always love beating the tar out of them. That always feels good. and that we'll leave that right there. So anyway, we brought
No, we're
11.
not. No, we're gonna circle back. I don't
Yeah,
want to stop your
make a
thought.
note
We'll
on the
circle back.
side, and we'll come back. But we brought 11 players, and 6 were related. So we brought, so like myself, my dad still plays on the team. He's 64 years old. He pitches on underhand games. He doesn't play overhand anymore. Although if he were here, he'd tell you it's only because the captain benched him.
It sounds like my dad.
Yeah. I'm like, look, you're an underhand player now, all right? Like it's you keep the book. He does a great job. Like I love. He comes to every game. It's amazing. He's in uniform every game. So it was like my dad, me and my brother, our first cousin, who we like sort of lost touch with. You know, his parents got divorced. They moved to Virginia. And like recently, we sort of reconnected. He played with us at Gettysburg because it's kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
And then he loved it so much. He was a pitcher in high school. He was good. And like reconnecting with family. So he's like, his dad has a vacation place in southern Maine. So he's like, I'll come to Rocky Point. I'll see my dad, and I'll play in the tournament. He pitched one of the overhand games. It was amazing. And then these 2 kids who were first timers, who were our second cousins, were there. You know, it's like baseball extended family, and we were short guys. And so, you know, they came with their dad, and like they looked at Johnson and Wales College while they were there and all this. So 6 out of 11 people were doing that. And I guess maybe to speak more to my point, in answer to your question, like, you know, I was a step kid when I was young, and life was weird. And the man who I just referred to as my father was technically my stepfather. And the Dairyman has been this wonderful way to start to have a relationship as adults that doesn't revolve around the shit that happened when I was a kid. And the same is true of my brother and I. You know, my mom and I, like my mom is the team mom. She loves it. You know, like every game, you know, she's like doing something. I try to like force money into her hand from the hat. And, you know, we always pass the hat, by the way. Like if you're not passing the hat at your games, like, what are you doing? We'll come back to that.
I've
Yeah.
never seen a hat pass.
That's
Never.
crazy. I pass
Never.
the hat at every game. You are providing entertainment. If they want a tip, great. If they don't, also fine. But so but the Dairyman has been this like wonderful vehicle to like bring my family together, you know, as adults in a way that like we didn't have. And you know, we didn't know we needed.
That's amazing. Number one, first off, like it's wild to hear this because my first cousins, my brother's first cousin, they were on the team as well, and that's just like your journey is really crazy and really interesting to me. But I love that it's really bringing something more, and so somebody on this podcast always says it's only as special as you make it, and it feels like that what you're creating for the Dairymen is something very special. So that's very exciting to hear.
The Providence Grays.
Yeah, we haven't forgot. I wrote it down.
I just was talking before you got in here, Nicholas, how I, for the first time, was able to see an 84 game in person. It was the Canton Corn Shuckers against the Providence Grays at Old Bethpage at the Doc Adams Festival. So I was able to be around the Providence Grays. I feel like I know the Providence Grays a little bit. What's the beef, man?
I think baseball has always been a personality and character driven sport. You know, the people that we remember, there are these larger than life figures who they do either crazy things or amazing things. They do impossible things. They do dastardly things. You know, but they're characters, and they're people, worthy of writing about, I guess, is really, what it comes down to. And the Grays have one of those personalities, and
Oh no.
and I think I might be another one. And whenever two of those get together, it's always a show. And
That's fun.
so, when I first
Johnny?
what,
Are we talking about Johnny?
no, I couldn't possibly name names. But when I first came into the league, kind of like the Dairymen were fledgling, and that summer I played a couple of games for Chuck Ciccarello, who has been like a close friend and mentor to me throughout this whole baseball process, and on life too, actually. But I played a couple games for his Bulldogs, and I played with them for their first win ever, by the way, at Doc Adams. We beat the oh shoot, who was it? Anyway, it might have even been the Grays, but that might not be true. Anyway, we'd be a good team. And so I played for him one time in Rocky Point, and we played the Grays, and it was an intense game. And, Chuck doesn't have the big, loud personality on the field as much as I do. And so, I really brought that to the game, and I don't know, like there's just this, for me at least, there's this kind of aura around the Grays that they're like the founding fathers of Northeast baseball, vintage baseball in several respects. Not to mention, Babe Ruth played for the Grays. Like, you know who that is? Like, he's kind of a big deal. And so, for me, when there's another personality like that on the field, like I have to compete with him. And when you add in the this changing of the guard kind of dynamic that I see in our relationship with the Grays, they are this they're the Lakers, and all of a sudden Michael Jordan's around, and the Lakers are looking a little rickety. But like that dynamic is like somehow special to me, and who knows if anybody else feels it except me. But
that makes it fun. Not only, I'm sure it makes it fun for them, makes it fun for you, makes it fun for the spectators, as long as it never gets too out of hand, which it doesn't sound like it has. So,
and I mean, I have mellowed significantly since I came into the league. And I guess that happens with age. But I think maybe the point for me is that there's this like character driven element and like story driven element to vintage baseball that makes it something that I am like willing to put time and effort into to like make it special.
Two things on what you said. We were actually supposed to be joined by Chuck Ciccarello before he came on, talking about what is that, the All-Star game that happens out there on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Is that the John St. Martin or something like that? I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
I believe. Yeah, John
C.
Martin
Martin
was a good friend and colleague of Chuck's who passed away from ALS. And so every year Chuck puts on this All-Star game, which I think is a misnomer, to be honest. It's not, for me, it's not the All-Star game. It's the captain's
the ALS affiliation is
say again.
I think you're behind us, Barrel Roller.
I am.
Okay.
I'm back.
Okay.
I haven't even talked to Chuck about this ALS affiliation, because whenever Rudy and I do any kind of event in the future and everything, we do ALS. We're affiliated with ALS fundraising no matter where we go and what we do. So
no kidding.
That'll actually, I can add that to the conversation when he comes on next week. And the other thing is, in September, I didn't tell you this, Rudy, but Johnny Carlival from the Grays is coming on as a guest.
Oh, nice. I like Johnny a lot. He's a total character. It'll be fun.
Hey,
Um,
Nicholas, take a second and circle back to your view on the All-Star game, because my older brother Ian has been invited and played out there a couple of times, and I just wanted to get your let you finish your thought.
oh, dude, it's so I think that the All-Star game is more properly thought of as like the captain's gala. And um, it's like a chance for all the like and it's basically like the way that I treat it and think about it is like the captain plus one gets to go.
Yeah,
If you're not going as a captain, it's because you can't go. It's not because you don't want to. It's an opportunity to get together with a bunch of people who have a shared set of experience, like even a smaller shared set of experiences within vintage baseball, like as organizers, as future leaders, past leaders, there's elders, there's young people there, like learn, like it's a beautiful dynamic at the All-Star game. And like I don't have to do any organizing. I don't have to send a single email. Like just show up and play.
yeah.
With like a group of guys who, I mean, like, yeah, it's competitive, but like there's never an argument about like out and safe. And it's just like, no, sir. I mean, it's a really beautiful weekend that, we get to do. And like, I don't know, there's something like nostalgic and not childlike, but pure about the
Yeah.
game. And I don't know, has your brother expressed
Oh,
anything
huge
like that?
loves, like, yeah, dude, he loves it. Like he just, because he's essentially representing us heading out there, and considering his vast experience in vintage baseball, it's the same thing. Like he's in his early 40s, but he's considered in vintage baseball years the old guard, because I
Mhm.
mean, I think this
Yep.
is our 30th year in vintage baseball. So
Wow.
yeah, but yeah, it just speaks so highly of it. And anytime that we can get a chance, like anytime I can get my team out there and see everybody in play, because it's just yeah, it's a little different than the Midwest. That's all. I mean, and I think everyone knows it. So it's we jump at the opportunity for sure.
It's
Um,
uh, it's one of my favorite days of baseball every year. I look forward to it every year, and if I'm ever able to go, then like I go. Chuck has done a fantastic job of putting that on, and it's a wonderful weekend every year.
Mr. Adam Johnson, the captain of the Addison Mountain Stars, was teaching me the Chuck Ciccarello hanky while pitching trick. Have you seen the hanky while
Uh, is
pitching?
that where he like or he does his like this Pete Townsend thing with his arm or some such?
There's a couple of different things that I haven't seen, but apparently he puts a hanky in his left pocket. So he goes and he pitches the ball and throws the hanky out of the pocket at the same time to divert your
Oh,
eye to the hanky on you're over there for a second and the ball's coming and maybe a miss hit. People don't probably swing at that very often, but he said there's another version where he can throw it straight up in the air or something like that, and it gets the right wind. It kind of waves and stuff like that. I've never seen a pitcher uh, do tricks like that. Is that something you are familiar with at all?
um, not specifically, no, but I know Chuck has a couple other moves that he likes. He does this thing where he'll run up and then pitch, because as soon as you step into the box, you can just pitch. So him and Pine Tar, Jeff Kornhaus,
oh yeah,
have two of the most distinctive pitching styles, and I think they sort of grew up in vintage baseball together, as I understand it. But they both like to be a little bit wacky on the mound, so to speak, in hopes of just messing. It's like this. What's his name? Nestor Cortez or something like that. It's very similar. Like just break up a rhythm of a hitter, and I think changing speeds. Like if you're changing speeds from 30 miles an hour to 25, like that's a big change for a hitter. And so like it all matters.
It's interesting because these are the little nuances that are uh, that people pay attention to in Mid-Atlantic and East Coast. Because if you did that here in Ohio, people would lose their mind. I had one team tell me that I was pitching the ball too fast, and that there was a rule that stated it couldn't be fast. And so that was like a whole. I was like, whoa.
There is no rule.
I know, it was really upsetting. But like barrel roller, when you were at Doc Adams and you saw the foul tick throw over into the outfield to get the runner to take off and get the runner out at the base, like I see that, you see that all the time when I played it in New York. And then like the pop fly push down to the ground to double up, because there's no infield fly rule. Like you see these little things that I feel like you're Jeff and Chuck, they take advantage of, and also it gets the conversation going. Like Adam Johnson described Chuck Chickarilla's pitching style as the most movement for something that didn't require it, and it was very like, I was like, okay, I got an idea now.
I mean, he's Jerry Lewis up there, for sure. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that's his style. So I don't know, like it's.
Well, one of the differences, Mr. Frandsen, is on the East Coast, you're dealing with an umpire that is giving you warnings way early, like to where the hanky throw or some of the other things that they do to distract the hitter, that can work if they've already been warned. That can work in those situations. Here in the Midwest, we're just going to take that pitch. We're going to take 15 more pitches too, because we're waiting for the one in the wheelhouse, because our umpires don't warn anybody in the Midwest.
Yeah. And like that's unheard of on the East Coast. It's like, hey, come on, what are we doing here? Like, let's play baseball. Like either swing or don't. Actually, it's interesting. I want to go back a little bit with this, like with this calling style. So at Rocky Point this weekend, so like my dad pitched, and he got 2 strikes on this hitter. We were playing the mutuals, but it was actually a Grays player who was filling in, and it was a Grays umpire. So my old man is just lulling him to sleep with this high arc stuff. And then all of a sudden he's got 2 strikes on him, and he fires one right down the middle pretty quick. And the umpire punched him out looking.
Oh, no.
He punched him out looking in an underhand game. I couldn't believe it. His own teammate was umpiring, and he just looked at him. And I think as we were going through the line at the end of the game, it was late in the game too. I mean, we were up handily, but late in the game, and so we're going through the handshake line at the end, and you just hear him say, like, "I'll see you in the parking lot after this."
Oh no. Oh no.
Well, it was right down the middle, and he'd been calling him right along, and that's something I don't really understand about your game, I guess. And made us change our pitching style too, because we have like a good pitcher who can like zip it right in there. But it's useless if the umpire, like, you expend all this effort to zip 3, 4, 5 pitches in there, and after 5 pitches of like hard effort from the pitcher and beating up the catcher and maybe a passed ball, there's maybe a warning. And so it doesn't make any sense to like try hard at pitching. And that's, a little annoying, but also it's just a different part of the game. So I get it.
Mm-hmm.
We do have some pitchers over here that put some steam on it. So it's not like it happens.
Yeah.
And Rudy, this is the first time I've heard you tell the story of somebody saying that you're throwing it too fast. There's a rule. There is no rule.
Oh, yeah. It was troubling because it was last season, and we were ahead, and then they started to time up the hitter pretty well. I mean, our other pitcher pretty well. And I just came in and just started like zipping them in. like nothing dissimilar from what you're used to, Nick, I'm very sure, but like they were like, oh gosh, stop everything. Like it's like I had like invented a new style of pitching. It was crazy.
They're about to burn you at the stake to be historically accurate.
He's a witch. Burn him. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But and that's just like because that's the vintage. I think to just go back to, you mentioned it, barrel roller. It evolved. People learned how baseball was played in the 19th century. They started out one way, and as they got more, as they did more research and got more education on it, it evolved like it had to where it is now.
Well,
and it's
well, it
evolved a
started
lot.
on as exercise. Started out as exercise, and then everybody wanted, because we're men, and we turn everything into a competition. That didn't just start a couple of years ago. We turn everything into a competition. It's it's who we are.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Let me.
And so I think you succeed at vintage baseball as a club when, one, you're a club, and it sounds like the Dairymen are a club, not a team. Two, if you can walk out onto the field and want to beat the other team into the ground and not care when you get knocked into the ground, I think that's where you find,
Yep. That guy. That guy's a ball player.
Can you
catch playing with the baseball?
Oh, it's fucking awesome. I think you're right, Roller. And so I'll be very honest with you. I don't watch modern baseball. I can tell you that Aaron Judge is the center fielder for the Yankees. But after that, like I got very little. Juan Soto is a player who people talk about. Like that's what I got. And it's and part of the problem is that it's boring. It's so boring. If you're not like especially on TV, but like modern baseball has a problem, a serious problem, and it's that every year the average fan base for Major League Baseball just gets 1 year older. They're not attracting new fans, and I think that we have this idea that most people don't have a very good sense of history, and we have this idea that the stuff that is currently either has been forever or is now as it should be, and therefore should not change, whether it's geopolitical boundaries or rules of baseball. And neither of those things have been static for history. And I think that modern baseball needs to take a hard look at like what's exciting for people and for fans, which is, by the way, like when the ball is hit in play, that's exciting for people. And figure out ways to make modern baseball less about strikeouts and more about putting the ball in play. And one of my immediate suggestions would be to take away some advantage from both groups, pitchers and hitters. So one thing that I would experiment with is I would basically get rid of the mound and require heavier bats. So you're taking away some advantage from both groups. And my hopes for that would be that the ball's in play more often. There are fewer strikeouts, basically fewer strikeouts. And people are going, oh, pitchers are going to hurt their arms not having a mound and blah blah blah. But like they got to tweak it, or they're just going to become like these irrelevant coliseums, monuments to a bygone era.
Well, pitchers hurt their arms no matter what. I don't understand why pitchers are so fragile now compared to what they were in the 60s and 70s when they pitched way more.
Yeah.
Like over twice as much as they do now. And like everybody's
right?
so fragile and always hurt. Like there's
Is
so
it
many.
twice as much, really? Yeah.
The farther you go back in time in baseball, the complete games, the innings pitched, it gets more the more backward you go.
Cy Young's record of wins, like I think Cy Young has more. I forget what it is, but it's like he has more complete games than the next guy has like wins or something like that. What it was some ridiculous stat, but yeah, like you started and you pitched the whole game.
And
And
that's just the way it was. And now it's everybody's a specialized pitcher for whoever is up next in the lineup, and
it makes it less fun. It makes
you
it
know what? Yeah, you know what kills me when I watch a game, because I don't watch religiously, but I would say I watch half of the Tiger games during the season. I'm a fan.
yeah.
But what kills me is when a relief pitcher comes in and he's doing well and he still gets taken out because of a matchup. Like, you just smoked the last 3 batters you faced, and now a lefty's coming in, so you have to leave the game. So we can bring a lefty in to face him. Like, this guy's stuff is working. When you're a pitcher, your stuff's not always working.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't do anything by feel. It's all on a chart, and it kills me. But you're right. I agree with everything you said about modern baseball. I mean, I just went to Juan Soto's return to the Washington Nationals. I was at the game. Padres came in town. He got a big ovation. I don't understand why. He just turned down the hugest contract in the history to play there because he didn't want to play there, and they still gave him the big ovation and everything. He's the most annoying player in the world to watch, by the way, in an at-bat. And
is he the one who does the stare down of the pitcher and he kind of like, is that him?
He gets really low. He's doing every movement in the world he can.
Yeah.
He's always got some kind of glare or something to say. He's just the worst. They tried to get rid of one of the rules they put in to help speed play was no stepping out of the box and readjusting yourself and blah, 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 blah. But that seems to be gone because people are just doing that still. And they do have a problem with modern baseball. It is boring as hell. Even when you go in person, it's boring as hell. I was bored out of my damn mind.
You got to bring your scorebook and you got to do your own book so you have something to do, which, by the way, I like doing. It's interesting that you mentioned that. I don't know if this was your words or I'm putting them in your mouth, but a little bit of the feel is gone, the magic is gone. Like it's too analytical and it's not fun. Somebody asked me the other day when we were at Rocky Point, they're like, oh, you call the game when you're catching, and I'm like, yeah, usually, but if a pitcher wants, I just let him throw and like deal with it. And that's fine. Pitchers are fragile beings. And they said, well, how come the catcher doesn't call, like, how come you call it, like the catcher doesn't call the game in modern baseball? And I said, well, like one, the catcher historically called the game because they're the ones who were looking at the whole field, and they could look at the way that a batter held his feet or cocked his hands or shifted his shoulders or missed some particular pitch or it was really susceptible to two low outside pitches and then like an inside fastball, whatever. Like the catcher was doing all of this. The catcher's role was to be like part of the analytical team or like the analytical team. And now the catcher doesn't call the game because like a team of 6, nerds are doing that, in the booth. They have a dozen cameras that are watching everything and recording everything, and they just plug it into a computer and tell the pitcher what the highest probability thing to do is next time. And like, that's not why sports are cool. Sports are cool because you're down 11-5 in the top of the 9th, and the Dairymen come back to score 8 runs, 5 with 2 outs, and beat the Westfield Wheelmen at Rocky Point this weekend. That's why sports are cool. Like the sports are cool because like the Dairymen play a 4-3 baseball game in 12 innings against Elkton, and these like this other old guard team who I like have this immense respect for, and like eventually want to get to the point where we're shellacking them too. You know, like we played a 4-3 game with them where, you know, like back and forth and defensive gems and like trying to get an advantage, and they're sneaking stuff and we're trying, like it's there's this magic about sports that, you know, I'm not the first to recognize or opine about, but you know, the analytics really take that part away from me.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to love baseball. It's funny is they don't want to make superstars. They just keep everybody down, and it's just all TV contract money. Actually, that's all it is. How does a sport that's dying, and it's dying, have all this money for all these players and all these stupid contracts? Everything is nowadays that between every pitch would stop and turn to the coach to see what the next pitch play was.
Yeah, yawn.
And college football teams that do that make me yawn too. Like they got to look over and they're holding up 17 different signs for you to come on. What are we doing?
You know, when I played Legion baseball in the summertime when I was in high school, and you know, in my high school career, I was a catcher, and like I got to call the games, and I really liked that, and I was pretty decent at it. I was a good catcher. I was an excellent defensive catcher. I was an okay hitter. But my Legion coach would he just had a very simple system. You know, if the ball was in his right hand, it was a fastball. If the ball was in his left hand, it was a, you know, curveball. And if he was holding two balls in one hand, it was a changeup. And you know, he called the pitches from the bench, and you know, I guess I I'm okay with that sort of thing because it's not this like hyper, you know, Excel spreadsheetized version of baseball. It's like one person like trying to figure it out as opposed to
But
like,
the whole point of being a catcher, the whole point of playing catcher, the whole point of wanting to become a catcher is you have a sense of the game.
agreed.
That's why all these catchers go on to be major league managers.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
So
Yeah, I don't know.
I just no. If you have a worthy catcher, even a somewhat just an average catcher, let him do his damn job. I mean, this every pitch stuff is nonsense.
Yeah, it's too bad. I don't know what the problem is. But you know, I and another thing too, man, you know, like I mean, it's just too corporatized at this point. It's you know, there's a lot of money at stake, and I think the people who play it have realized that, you know, at some level, you know, it's not worth, hey, get out of there. Get out of here. Kitty, get out. Get, um
Your cat's name is Kitty.
no, the cat's name is Misha. Um uh at some level, you know, I think, did you watch The Last Dance? It was about, you know, Jordan and all that.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot, and Michael Jordan is like one of these personalities that is worthy of study for sure. And you know, somebody on there said that like, you know, the basketball teams like of the '90s, like they hated each other. You know, like there was very little of this kind of like getting together in the off season and working out together, and like it was much more, I don't know what the word that I'm looking for is, but like there was like
Competitive.
it was much more like warrior culture that was, you know, imbibed in sport in general. And you know, coming from the military, like, you know, I like that. You know, I well, let's just stick with baseball and basketball for now. But like it's you know, it was much more, I don't know, warrior like. Um, and today, like all that has been like stamped out of the game. The personality has been stamped out of the game to the point where like a guy like running the bat across his junk in between pitches is, like that's how people express themselves in baseball. And I don't know. I don't want to get into this space where we're just lamenting how like, the way things used to be, but
we're sounding like some sad old men. You're not old. I am.
Yeah.
You guys sound like a bunch of old men.
I guess the point is, we'll finish this by saying like, there's a lot of magic in vintage baseball, and that's why I love it, because it's personal, it's gritty, it's like personality and character and story driven. There's like these fun family storylines, and there's
the world needs us, Nick. The world needs us now more than ever.
Roller, I hadn't thought about it like that, but when you say it, I think you're right. The world does need us.
They do. They're going to find us.
We're like the Abe Lincolns of, modern baseball.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
you can find me on. It's $1. You can find me on Venmo or Cash App. Hey,
I don't know.
Out of here,
anyway,
before we get you out of here, I want to talk about the fact that you're a lawyer. I want you to tell me and explain to me what a former investigative analyst at the Manhattan DA office does. What was your job?
I worked at the White Collar Crimes Bureau at the DA's office between college and law school. And we investigated white collar crimes like bank fraud and insider trading and, like more complex fraud cases where, the investigations required more kind of like prolonged poking and undercover work and stuff like that. And so I was a, investigative analyst, which is a glorified term for paralegal, senior paralegal, shall we say. So, I was a senior paralegal working on like white collar crimes prosecution.
And what do you currently do as a lawyer?
Oh, I'm a small town lawyer now. I do, real estate and land use, small business, some nonprofit stuff, things like that.
So are you in the courtroom?
No, that requires a whole different mindset and staff. And I work by myself right now, and I'm thinking about hiring somebody. I used to have a paralegal.
So as far as working with
Oh, you frozen.
Yeah, you cut out. What'd you say?
I'm always cutting out. Cut it out. Anyway, my question was, so you deal with all this nonprofit. I assume the Dairymen are a nonprofit. Is it your experience in dealing with nonprofits why that hat gets passed around at your games?
No, it's not. So we have a nonprofit sponsor. We ourselves are not a nonprofit, and that is kind of just because like I have a nonprofit who has agreed to like do our books for free. So I'm not in a hurry to, do them ourselves.
Is it true a nonprofit vintage baseball team that you have to clear out your bank account at the end of every year?
No, I don't see why that would be true. Who said that?
Okay. That's just something I've heard. I don't have a club. I don't know anything. I don't know. I'm not.
I don't. No, why would that be true? That doesn't make any sense.
It's just something that you have to, like a vintage baseball club that's a nonprofit would go and buy a bunch of bats and balls and things for the team at the end of the year to get that bank account empty for the next year. That's not a thing?
I can think of a few reasons why a team might do that, like ease of bookkeeping or record keeping, especially, I'll say, okay, we raised $8,000 this year, and like, that's what we have for the season. And, we want to spend it for, I don't know why they would do that, but I am not aware of any legal requirement for a nonprofit to have a zero balance in their bank account on January 1st. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, good.
Let
I've
me
learned something.
let me get a question in before we go. Just off the top of your head, what is your most successful fundraiser for anybody that might be listening and interested in fundraising or trying to fundraise? What was your most successful?
The way that I started was I went around and I like asked lots of people for donations, whatever it was. You want to give $30? Great. I went around to like community leaders and like other businesses, people that I knew, people that I didn't know, but I just like pounded the pavement and, you know, raised a couple grand. And then I transitioned eventually into like by like being a community guy and just like being out there. You know, I was able to find a few people who wanted to make larger yearly donations. And so most importantly, quick plug for our largest donor, the Livestock Foundation. Our second baseman is a very successful businessman, and he has a nonprofit arm called the Livestock Foundation. And, you know, so eventually, like they became our largest sponsor, and a few other relationships that I was able to build in the community with people who just like wanted to, like, you know, I showed them the product that we were putting out, and they said, I want to support this community thing. And so, you know, at this point, I spend a lot less time on fundraising than I used to, because I just like those $30 donors, I don't even go to them anymore. I focus on the people who want to give, you know, $500 and up, and
enough money so everyone on the team can have a filet mignon dinner, and you can just whip out the credit card.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking
There it
for.
is.
That's what we're all looking for. A little surf and turf for the team.
Hey man, you know, I don't blame you, and you know, I've gotten spoiled in some respect, but in other respects, like I put the work in and raised this money, so you know, I don't feel bad
that's
about
true.
spending it on us.
There you go.
And that's why more captains events. We were talking earlier about how a captain event is like the all-star thing, the Martin, and you know, the Frankenmuth festival that I did had a captain's event on the Friday night. Captains by far put in the most work.
Of course.
They have to feel all of the emotions. They are nervous all week about having enough guys to play. They're the ones finding guys when they don't have enough. They're the ones doing most of the setup in most cases, and tear down. The captains should be rewarded as much as humanly possible in this vintage baseball game. I don't think anyone could disagree with that, because if you don't pull your weight as a captain, you no longer become a captain, I guess. You kind of get booted out of the team.
Well, what I would say to any captain who wants to, you know, expand their fundraising opportunities, just like hit the pavement, keep records, you know, figure out who wants to be a recurring donor for $250 a year, and then eventually you'll move into people who want to be recurring donors for $500 a year, and then, you know, at some point you can start asking people, whether it's wealthy individuals who just care about the community, or private foundations for grants or whatever, you can start asking them for $1, $2, $5 grand at a pop. You know, and also the social media presence, and like put yourself out there, like show potential donors that like, hey, this is a serious thing, and like I'm not just going to take your $1,000 and blow it on some dumb stuff. Like, this is what I'm going to do with the money, and so this is what I provide, and if you would like to support that, here's what I can do for you.
And it helps that you're a lawyer. You know how to talk to people.
Well, you know, sometimes.
I mean, it's a very matter of fact thing. Look, give me this money. This is what it's for. Maybe you'd like to support it, maybe you wouldn't, but give me the money.
I will say that, like, you know, your first few times asking people for money, it's like your first few times having sex. You have no idea what you're doing, and you mess it up. And you know,
that was only the first few times.
Yeah,
for you? Oh.
A few years maybe. But you know, You're gonna mess it
I'm
up.
over 50. I still don't feel like I know what I'm doing.
Well,
Can
that's
somebody talk to me about this?
I just like anything, you have to be bad at it before you get good at it. And someday you'll be 80 years old and you'll tell people that you got it all figured out.
When I get into the retirement homes, I hear gets a little freaky in the retirement homes.
I mean,
So,
hey,
looking forward to getting gonorrhea as much as possible. Nicholas, we're going to get you out of here on a little segment I finished most of my interviews on called Giving Ya the Old Pepper. Are you ready?
I don't know what's happening, but I feel like it's going to be a bunch of questions in quick succession. So yes.
See, here we go. What is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Anything with Reese's in it.
Name one of your favorite smells.
Smells?
Yes.
Fresh cut hay in the barn.
Name a pet peeve you have.
Dragging your feet while you walk.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how quick are you to anger in road rage situations?
7.
What is one of your favorite board games?
Catan.
What is your second favorite color?
Red.
Name a celebrity you have a crush on.
Kevin Costner.
Good one. What is your favorite side dish?
Good coleslaw because it's so hard to find.
How do you eat an Oreo?
All at once.
What was your first car?
1998 Mercury Tracer.
What was your first concert?
Andrew WK.
Your girlfriend's name is Leah, is that correct?
Yes.
Where was your first date with Leah?
Russell's General Store.
Paper, rock, or scissors?
Rock.
All right. And who is your favorite United States president?
Teddy Roosevelt.
Damn it! I was trying to double my. I was trying to double my money.
Oh, is that what happens once you get to 3, and then you 2x it every time?
It was going to be 4. It was going to be 4. I was going to double it to $2. That's right. You can find me on Venmo for that dollar. Nicholas, thanks for stopping in. Rudy, you got anything else for Nick before he's out of here? Rudy,
you're muted.
You're muted, Rudy. We can't hear you. Nick, can you hear him?
No, he's muted. He's got to be muted.
He's definitely muted.
Oh, you know what happened? The mic is muted. So the mic is muted, but not on the screen. I was just saying it was fantastic to meet you and get a chance to talk to you.
Fellas, this was super cool. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I listened to a few episodes. I'm admittedly
we didn't even get to talk about so many things with you. Like that's what happens when you have a guest on here that knows and is passionate about the vintage game like you are, Mr. Frandsen. It takes up a lot of time, which is no complaints. I mean, that's what we want, but then we can't get to a lot of stuff. And
like all the talking shit you were hoping I was going to do. We didn't get to that. We were talking about real stuff.
No, we don't do that here. We don't do that here. You're not going to find any of that on any of the other episodes.
No, I've listened to a few, and it seems fantastic. I think it's super cool that you guys do this. I listen basically when there's stuff on there that about people that I know, and I don't know a lot of the Midwest games, so that's kind of I guess why I'm like I knew you guys existed for a while before I listened to my first episode, just because you guys were, it seemed very, very Midwest focused. And then like Colin Miller started to get me into it. And I guess I'll stop my time here by saying Colin Miller, if there's one person who has done more than anybody for me in vintage baseball, it's Colin. He has been like a guiding light and a mentor in a few different respects, not just in baseball. And the energy that he brings to his team, I think I struggle to match. Like what I do with the village, he does by himself. So I'm continually in awe of him, and also keep telling him that he needs an assistant.
Yeah, I've interviewed Colin. I had a couple episodes with Colin actually, because much like this, we ran out of time on a lot of stuff. And great guy. I know that I speak for Rudy when I say that we are very much looking forward to seeing you on the field, especially as now we travel and we're doing play-by-play and stuff like that. So we will probably cross paths in the future, in the flesh, as they say.
I look forward to the day, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
And we thank you, Rudy. Always a pleasure with you. Your fathering moment of the week before we go.
Oh yeah. Hey, new parents, here's what you got to do. Get the diaper and the wipes ready before you take the old diaper off. That's always do it. That never fails.
And if you're looking for a suggestion, I got a couple of shows that I've been watching, and I just finished The Beef. You got to watch The Beef if you like cooking shows at all. It has Jeremy Allen White from Shameless. It's just one season. It just started, but it's a phenomenal show, and I think you'll see that across the internet that it's a great show. I also watched The Rehearsal. It really messed with my mind. I don't know what's going on completely there. That's on HBO Plus. That was interesting and weird. And I also just watched just down on Netflix was a documentary about Woodstock 1999 and what a fire festival that was, and how disgusting that was. So there's three things for you guys to watch. Don't forget, Rudy and I are going to be doing year-end awards this year. We're also going to be inducting people into the Roller Around the Barrel Hall of Fame, and that's past people that invented the game of baseball and had big impact on baseball and players and everything from the beginning. But we're also inducting people that have had the biggest impact on the reincarnation of vintage baseball. And we don't know where it's going to go. We're just doing it for fun. We don't even know how many we're going to do, but we're going to do something like that. We also have the image contest. If you have a picture out there that you want to possibly be the image of the year, send it to barrelrollerpod@gmail.com. You can find us on the Twitters. You can find us on the Facebooks. Oh, yeah, and the Roller Around the Barrel Classic just found a home, but I can't officially announce it. But big, interesting tournament coming in May to the Ohio area. So, Rudy, do you have anything on top of that?
This has been a treat, ladies and gentlemen, and I look forward to, because there's going to be an episode 2, Nick. Just get used to it, because there's
Nick. We have to talk about baseball as a kid.
Yeah.
We have to talk about why Bull Durham is the best baseball movie of all time.
Oh, yes.
Oh, we can do that too. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Bull Durham, love it. Okay, thanks for listening, everybody. Keep up with the downloads. I appreciate you. And tell them, Rudy.
And ladies and gentlemen, keep it station to station, and we'll see you out in the field.